Quote, after the U.S. Centers of Disease and Control and Prevention released an updated report regarding the COVID-19 deaths in late August, which showed that only 6% of coronavirus deaths were solely due to the virus, some in the general public went ballistic, and rightfully so. Businesses have been shut down for months, millions have become unemployed, schools remain closed, depressions and suicides are rising. Since mid-March, life as we know it has been flipped upside down. And all of this because we were told that COVID-19 was a super deadly virus that must be stopped at all costs. Literally, end quote. Christina Herron of the Detroit News. A question we must ask ourselves today is, why did Corona hit people so hard? The answer isn't because of the virus, nor is it because of the death rate. It is the lack of community. Community is something vital to humans. Our lives depend on others, whether that's family members, best friends, significant others, etc. Humans live for interaction with other humans. However, since March 2020, there has been a wrench thrown in the communication between families and friends. We were told that a 2-week quarantine was warranted. At the end of that, it was 2 months, then 4 months. Then came the mask mandate, then the riots. Next thing we know, Corona has taken over our lives. Everywhere you go, you have one conversation about COVID, at least. But what is it that makes COVID so terrible? I understand how horrible this virus has been for people of high risk. However, as statistics have shown, less than 6% of coronavirus deaths are actually caused by corona. The question behind this comes at, why has it been blown out of proportion? Control. The government now has the control to tell us what we should wear over our faces, how many people we can have in our home, where we can shop, where we can get our hair done and watch sports. There are many aspects to the responses of COVID that don't make sense. First is the mask mandate. I am against masks. One reason is that there is no proven evidence that they even make a difference, and if they do, it's less than 3%. Another reason comes at the very way we live our lives. Take going out to a restaurant. You arrive there and there are signs at the door saying that you must wear a mask in order to enter the restaurant. You put your mask on and you walk inside. You wear your mask while ordering and walking around. The minute you sit down, you may remove your mask because suddenly you are in a bubble, corona-free, and any time you remove and when you remove your mask, suddenly no one can catch COVID from you. However, if you need to go to the bathroom, you must put your mask back on because suddenly you are dangerous again the minute you stand up. The most important reason that I am against the masks is because they create division. We are now categorizing ourselves into groups: people who wear masks, people who comply, and people who don't, and therefore they endanger others. Since the government has mandated that people must wear masks at all times when in public, people are finding it within their duty to criticize and demonize those who don't wear masks. There have been terrible stories about mobs beating those who don't wear masks up. 3 of them include: shocking video captures the moment when a man kicked a girl in the face for not wearing a mask on a UK bus. Second, a local man was charged on Monday, this was a while ago, after police said he assaulted an older man allegedly for not wearing a mask in a supermarket. Third, 4 French police officers have been suspended and are in custody after a video that shows them brutally beating a black man for not wearing a mask. Those are just 3 examples of people letting their emotions control their actions when it comes to masks. I don't care if you want to wear a mask. It's not my place to tell you that you must or that you shouldn't. But at the same time, it's not anyone's place to say we must or that we shouldn't. That is up to the individual, because it is their free will. We live in America, after all. Moving on from masks, the actual sickness of COVID. If you concoct COVID, you are told by the doctors to stay in your home and call if you have trouble breathing or feel like you're dying. Everyone in my family besides me has had COVID. We wore masks, we protected ourselves, but we got the virus. And that is because it's a virus, and it's going to run its course until it is done. There is nothing we can do to control it, because at the end of the day, we aren't God. However, when my mother got COVID, she went to the doctor calling it bronchitis, as that's what she thought it was. He gave her normal medicine that would treat a common cold. Her cough was taken care of My phone is sabotaging me. I just got told I had to delete some of my inventory, which I just did for the past hour. Anyways, I'm back. Basically, so after my mother got the medication, her cough was healed. All that remained was a small amount of lack of taste and smell. Now my dad got COVID. He went and got tested. The test came out positive, and he was told to remain home and call if he had any trouble. His sickness was severely worse than my mother's. His headache kept him in bed for 4 days. Now, if you knew my dad, this is my dad, the biggest, strongest, most diligent worker bee I have ever known. He did recover, however, it was a longer process than that of my mother's. It leaves us with a question. If COVID can be dulled by already discovered medicines, why do we need a vaccine? The past few weeks and months, that's all I've been hearing about. I've gotten tons of headlines about how the vaccine will help us. One shocked me. It said the vaccine will not cure COVID. Quote, giving the vaccine to someone who has an active infection, I wouldn't necessarily expect it to do anything. End quote. Dr. James Tita with Mercy Health St. Vincent Medical Center. Dr. Kaminsky elaborated that in some cases, getting the vaccine while you are sick with COVID-19 could be dangerous. When you get the vaccine, it takes 12 to 14 days to develop any sort of immunity. During that time, you are still susceptible to the virus. Quote, if you currently have the disease, we definitely don't recommend that you get vaccinated at that time. Not only would it be ineffective, but it might produce some side effects we see on top of being ill, end quote. Further mixed reports of the dangers of the vaccine. I will not get into those, but if you learn anything from this video, I pray it'll be to do your own information rather than merely listening to news media outlets. And I don't mean looking up an article and calling it quits. I mean thorough research for sides that agree with your opinion and don't agree with your opinion. Then draw conclusions. The worst way COVID has impacted everyone is by separating families and friends, specifically endangered family members. My mother's brother is in a nursing home at age 64. He has scleroderma, a disease that kills most victims before they turn 60. My Uncle Kevin has conquered this disease time and time again. However, since March 2020, he has not seen any of his friends, family members, siblings, nieces, nephews, other than in a screened, closed window. He would rather get COVID and risk his chance of survival than spend another month shut up in a closed prison cell. Depression rates are through the roof. Uncle Kevin is the most social person I have ever met. He lost both of his legs and still had a more social life than I did. But he hasn't been allowed to see anyone he loves in a year. He called my mother 2 weeks ago sobbing because he has been locked up in the nursing home and he needs social interaction. He has had both vaccines. By government standards, he should be allowed to see people now. So why isn't he allowed to? Now for my dad's side of the family. My Uncle Charlie has been steadily getting older and had to have open heart surgery in December. He was then admitted into the hospital where only one person was allowed to visit him and only at very specific times. Then he was transferred to a nursing home. It was here, much like Uncle Kevin, where everyone who wanted to visit him was forbidden. He spent the next few weeks in isolation, refusing to accept the treatment given to him. Charlie was never a very social person, going through illness to the point where he could possibly die at any moment and not see his family members was torturous. When he was admitted into hospice, people were allowed to see him, but completely maxed up, wearing large gowns so that he could barely know who we were. I visited him yesterday, and I know he would rather risk having COVID and see our faces than be isolated and alone. At least we got to say goodbye. After we visited him for the first and last time since July, we got a call this morning telling us he had passed away. He waited till he had seen all of his family members before passing on to heaven. Humans need social interaction. Through the past year, we have divided ourselves, isolated ourselves, and gone through what many people would call the worst year of our lives. Yes, I did get kicked off again because my phone hates me. The COVID virus does not warrant this. I am not seeking to persuade you to never take precautions, but if we do not stand up and say enough is enough, we will have to endure another year like 2020. Make 2021 a better year. That's something I have seen everywhere. But in order to make it a better year, you have to make it a better year by saying no to COVID. A year with no in-person classes for colleges, online debate tournaments, visiting family members through windows, and saying hello and goodbye to people we haven't seen in months is what's headed for us. It's what's already happened in just a month and a half. We are isolated from each other, and we will stay this way until we decide our community means more than sickness. In my city of Omaha, Nebraska, we have 193,837 cases of COVID. Out of those, only 2,066 deaths. That's practically 1% of cases where people die. And if you take into account the 6% that could possibly be only COVID death actual cases, that's even less. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control." COVID virus will be as present as the influenza and the common cold. We as people need to make the decision to no longer live in a spirit of fear. I implore you to do research on the actual cases versus death ratio. Pandemics have never been measured in cases until this year, and that is because the case rate is significantly higher than the death rate. Chances are you won't die from COVID. I hope this encourages you in some way. If you take offense, please be polite about it. Remember, I am for free will, not control. If you want to take precautions, that is your free will. I hope you have a great day, and may God bless you.